And we are
That's
live.
Yeah, we're live. Good evening. Welcome to what number is this now, Ron?
Number 12.
Number 12. Yeah, dirty dozen. Welcome to tonight's chat. We're very lucky to have Des Brown from Elite Defense Academy. Now, just to give you guys a little bit of background, that's where Rowan and I started our bromance. He needed a place to get his sweat and strangle on, and I pointed him in the right direction, and the rest is history. And since then, we've been slapping each other under the expert tutelage of Mr. Des Brown. Welcome to tonight's show. We thought it'll be good just to share some of your, let's call it wisdom, and your lovely anecdotes that you were always very easy and eager to dispense with. But yeah, welcome to tonight, and yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me. Really appreciate it. I have a question though. I heard a hardy-dar right at the beginning of the recording. Is that your sort of entry theme? Or was that just some random bird flying around the house?
Dude, it's because I've got this big-ass oak tree in front of my yard, and there's now 3 or 4 hardy-dars sitting there, and I'm in front of the PC, and I can't run outside with a kitty and chase them away. It's they are annoying, but it's a we've got bird life here, which is great.
Yeah, no, I think it's really authentic. You should actually adopt it. Get a recording.
No, we've got like this. I almost said something very un-PC, but people that know me would actually laugh. But because right now I'm starting. I've got the Sassel Bird app, and it was quite. I think it's just over 600 Rand for the Bird Sounds app. And we've got lovely night jars. I don't know if you know what a night jar sounds like.
Yeah.
Yes, and we've actually got falcons, and you can hear them in the morning. And my mother-in-law lives with us, and she's got this Yorkie Terrier, and I'm figuring out ways to entice the falcons to come and catch the Yorkie. I just don't know. I don't know how to do it. But
peanut butter.
Peanut butter. Welcome, Des. Dude, we were threatening each other for quite a long time to actually get you on. Not only like I've mentioned, you've had a hand in us meeting, but you probably set me on my, let's call it combatives journey, and you laid and Elite Defense Academy laid a very good foundation in terms of where I am today. So I've got a lot to be thankful of, and in me meeting Rowan was the whole point, is exposing him to Krav Maga and the likes. So just in a quick nutshell, and just to give somebody an idea of where you come from, and when just before the show started, we were discussing how this show, the process that we follow in the show. But we need to just give people an idea of where you come from, your bona fides, what got you into doing this, because it's, for the lack of a better word, it's slightly extreme. It's not easy. And like I said, you've actually put us, Rowan and myself, big time in terms of fundamentals on our road to combatives. So please just start from where it started for you.
Sure, with pleasure. That would be like right at the beginning. I've been in the martial arts all my life. When I say all my life, typical 7-year-old, you're a bit rambunctious, and your mom says, "Oh, you need discipline," and sends you to a karate class, that kind of thing. And off I went. I didn't get discipline, as you can tell. But you guys know that, once you find something that accords with you, it gets into your blood. You fall in love, and it's there for life. You can try and get away, but there's a kind of a siren call to it. And for me, that's really what it was. It's been a lifelong, so far, love affair with all things combative, which is a bit weird. You'd think that really the domain of psychopaths and people who are maybe a little one-sided, but imbalanced. And I really hope to correct that misperception tonight if I can. I started doing karate seriously as an older teen. I think probably around 16 or so. went and did my obligatory military service. When I came out, I continued with the karate. Did that for many years, probably a decade or more. And in that process, you know, I'm talking about the late 1980s, early 1990s. In that process, there was a lot of change taking place, and there was a kind of a new guard in terms of the traditional martial arts. You know, MMA was just kind of peeking its head out, and there was a growing awareness, I think, even in the pre-internet days, of the fact that many of the traditional arts, as beautiful as they were, had limitations. And for me, that was a kind of a quest to plug the holes, not plug the holes, to connect the dots in terms of what karate had to offer. And of course, it wasn't the case where you can now, you know, see what other people are doing at the press of a button. You literally had to go and find teachers who taught whatever you were looking for. And in those days, you know, in South Africa, not all that easy because there weren't all that many. But in that journey, over the course of the following 10 years, I think I gained some exposure to different martial arts, and I tried to glean what I could from them. So in no great depth, but some exposure to Shaolin Kung Fu, some exposure to a little bit of Wing Chun, to Aikido to a good degree, to Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. What else? There were a couple that I, you know, some I just flirted with, others I immersed myself for a while just to try and get what I could out of them. And for me, there was always that puzzle of finding out where they interfaced, what that golden thread was that ran through everything. And it was only until quite a number of years later where I was, ironically enough, I was teaching a Tai Chi class. And it was a group of folk who were, you know, they were very gentle and very, as you'd expect from a Tai Chi class, you know, they're not there to hit each other. But one of them, kind of knowing that I'd done a few things in the past, said to me, you know, can you teach us some self-defense? Now, my brash policy has always been to say, yes, sure, you know, and then figure out a way. So I said, yeah, absolutely, I'm an expert, you know, liar. So I took 2 weeks and I put together what I thought was a pretty decent program, and it was just based on common sense. There was no research really that went into it, I'm ashamed to say. And, you know, I thought to myself, what happens to people? You know, I've only been in a couple of altercations in my life. I really try and avoid them. But I kind of, you know, asked around and spoke to people and got a sense of what's out there, you know. And so I started devising responses, counterattacks to things like what would typically happen to you in a street brawl, or if somebody held you up at gunpoint or knife point, and so on and so on. And I started cobbling this together on my own, just as a, you know, I didn't make, to be honest, I didn't make it out to be anything it wasn't. I was fairly upfront with the folks, you know, and said, based on my experience, this is what I have to offer. And they seemed very happy with it. And I started teaching that in a very small private class, which went on for a couple of months. It started growing. And then one evening, about 6 months into that process, a gentleman walked into that particular class, and he was very neatly dressed. He said to me, you know, could I sit and watch? And I said, certainly, you know, went and sat in the corner. When I'd finished the class, he came over to me and he shook my hand. He said, you know, hi, I'm Jeff. Tell me, what is this that you're teaching? And, you know, for me, it was that moment of exposure. I'm like, oh, I've been bust. Shit, this guy's So very sheepishly, I said to him, you know, it's homemade. It's an amalgamation of things that I've learned from exposure to karate and boxing and, you know, a couple of other things that I'd played with, and just common sense really, and some jiu-jitsu and a bit of what have you. Anyway, he said to me, you know, this is very much like the older traditional form of Krav Maga. Have you ever considered teaching Krav Maga? And at that point, I'd heard of it. I'd read 1 or 2 articles in magazines, kind of familiar with it. I didn't know much. And I kind of had, up until that point, discounted it because I didn't regard it as being a martial art. I regarded it as being a kind of a stopgap measure, something that was taught to military recruits to get them out of a tight spot, and didn't have any long-lasting value as a lifelong study. It wasn't malicious. I just hadn't considered it. It turned out he was Jeff Miller, grand gentleman, a magnificent guy, and a very, very good instructor. Trained at the Wingate Institute, very highly regarded in Israel. Was with the IKMF for a long, long time, and he's just, man, he's a role model of what a good Krav Maga instructor should be. So for some unaccountable reason, he took a liking to me, and he started sharing what he knew and what he had with me. to the degree where he was giving me class planners, he was giving me, in-depth information as to how things were done and why they were done that way. And, it really sparked thought. And somewhere in that process, very early on, proverbially the light bulb went on over my head. It was, that moment of absolute enlightenment, illumination. It was like, holy cow, this is what I've actually been looking for. Here is the dot connecting taking place right in front of me. And, that was it. I'd found what I was looking for. And I started studying it. I started teaching it first informally and then more formally as I grew under Jeff and under the tutelage of one or two other people who were also giving me input at the time.
What year was this?
And that would have been around 2006, 2000, around 2006, as I remember, 2005, 2006, thereabouts. In fact, maybe slightly earlier. I started formally teaching Krav Maga in early 2006. And, at that point, I wanted to kind of start a formal club, as it were, and I was casting around for a name for the place. And there was I probably shouldn't admit this on air, but I already have in another interview, so I'll do it again. There was a dairy truck passing by, and it was Elite Dairy or something like that. Elite, yes. That sounds badass. Okay, we're going to be Elite Defense Academy. We're an academy, baby. And that's how that journey started. Do you want me to add to that?
I remember when I came to you, and I believe I might be a little bit off here in terms of, but I think it was in 2010, because that's when I moved to Joburg. It was the picture perfect, almost garage gym setup, but not in a garage. I remember us training in school class. We would move the benches to the side and then move each other. And then after class, we would have to put the benches back where we found them. That was the one. And then the one video was at his gym in Germiston, if I remember correctly.
Yes, early days still, yeah.
Yeah, you would walk up, and then it was on the top floor of a gym. But what was funny about it for me was
it was the dodgy corner, the dingy, dodgy corner of the gym, yeah.
And then there was a third class in Benoni at some church, also on a top floor. And I just remember it was these really rough carpets where if you fell, guaranteed you'll get carpet burn.
Oh, yeah.
But it was strange because it was different venues, but it was the same guys that came to all the classes. They just traveled during the week. And it was, and I know a lot of guys get a lot of flack for this, but your classes were not touchy-feely. It was, we got thrown around. It was rough some days. You were guaranteed to get punched and kicked, and there were some bloody noses, and it was not touchy-feely like some Krav Maga schools are. Not all of them, some. It was rough. It was a tough learning school.
If I can comment one,
sure.
It was just, I think it was pretty much early in the days of, like, let's call it commercial Krav Maga classes. I don't think anybody really had the proper recipe and the proper, like, the setup. But something that stood out massively is anybody that asked me about the classes by you guys and the Krav Maga that we were doing, is that it doesn't matter who you are, in what physical condition you are, you go for one class and you walk out with tools. And that's the thing that really set Krav Maga apart. And I've never been, and let me put it bluntly, nothing martial arty has ever appealed to me. Only recently jiu-jitsu has really appealed to me in terms of martial art. But Krav Maga, and I keep on reiterating, it's almost like it's a martial art, but it's almost like an instantaneous skill set that you can give anybody. Just go do a class or two and you'll have something. Not everything, but something. And that's what, like jiu-jitsu, probably took us 6 months to be anywhere, just something. But with Krav Maga, and especially with you guys, it's not like I could move everybody, but it felt that I could, just from a couple of small adjustments and a little bit of tutelage, we could figure out to do something. And that was what set it apart initially for me.
So you remember how you said you guys hadn't yet gotten any hate mail? Well, brace yourself, because it's probably going to happen from some of the viewers at some point. And I'll explain why in a minute. But, in the intervening years, a lot of water has passed under the bridge, and we've evolved a lot. But one of the things that I think we've remained true to is that sense of realism. We honestly don't sugarcoat reality. Now, I know that there have been those who are out there don't like me, they don't like our brand, they don't like what we stand for, and there have been some people out there who quite plainly said, these guys are fakes, they don't know what they're doing, it's touchy-feely, if I can borrow Ruan's expression. Those people have probably not been exposed to the full ambit of what we offer, let me put it that way. They are inclined to judge based on a video or an interview or a snippet they see somewhere, and they form an entire worldview based on that. And that's okay. I actually don't give a shit, to be quite honest. As our CEO said the other day, it's a case of mind over matter. We don't mind and you don't matter. But the fact of it is that, in the intervening years, we've grown from those 2 or 3 tiny little makeshift clubs to more than 30 facilities across South Africa, and we're now in 7 countries. We have more than 50 certified instructors who teach at a really good level. And to come back to what you were saying, Krav Maga is exactly that. It's not meant to take a lifetime to master, although it can be a lifetime journey. It's meant for someone to walk in and to walk out with tools. Just add water, figuratively speaking. Or blood.
Oh, blood, yeah. Sweet.
No, for anyone listening in or watching, don't be put off by that. We're actually not knuckle draggers. And that's one of the things that we've prided ourselves on. Yes. There are a lot of guys out there who they put in a big show. There's a great deal of bravado and macho-ness and bullshit, really. And there are people who are attracted to that. You find that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. The guys who behave like knuckle draggers, who are bombastic and rude and, needlessly aggressive or violent, tend to attract students or personalities who behave the same way. And we've seen this time after time. Now, people like that, we don't want. Elite Defense Academy is, our slogan is intelligent, effective self-defense, with emphasis on the intelligent. Ordinary men and women who don't have skills, who aren't particularly in shape, and who don't have to be, Our goal is not to turn them into urban warriors or ninja tricksters or operators, any of those things, although we can, given time.
But yes, we want to operate operationally.
Operationally. I can refer you. Sorry, Ron,
when you were finished.
Because of that, I think a lot of people have interpreted our approach as being a bit on the mild side. They somehow think that we don't take it seriously, that we're lacking in brutality or knowledge, or I don't know what it is. But anyway, that's beside the point. The point I'm trying to make is that you can't become a doctor in a couple of hours, but you can learn CPR. And that is what Krav Maga is. It's to teach you those skills that will get you out of a tight spot and enable you to get away safe. And that's the USP. That's the key thing that we offer that I think makes it attractive to men and women who don't have time, and they don't want to embark on a lifetime journey. Many of them do. Once they've been exposed to our culture, and I say that proudly, we've built a culture of family, of inclusivity, of really caring for the people we work with, our students, our instructors. And we've also, evolved in a couple of different directions, and I'll maybe embellish on that a bit later if you'll grant me the time. But I think that's what appeals to people. And that's why we've, almost accidentally, I want to say, become what we are today, which is, I'm hoping, somewhat reputable, attractive to normal, intelligent people, and able to offer a well-rationalized, intelligent system of self-defense that works for everybody. Simple as that.
But, I remember and I'm going to go back to. I sound like one of those guys that played rugby in high school, and I keep telling everybody about back in the day. But one thing that I remember very clearly about our time with EDA, and granted it's 9 years ago, but one thing that always stood out for me was you did two things specifically. You were always very open about go and train at other places. Go and see what's out there. And you were not like some instructors where you are only allowed to train here and with me, and you are not allowed to go and see what else is out there. That's one thing that for me that was always very good about the way you taught. You were almost pushing the guys, go and do jits, go and do MMA, go and do Muay Thai or boxing, whatever floats your boat, to go and get that skill set. The second thing is, and I've mentioned it briefly, is that it was hard. It wasn't hard for everybody because not everybody, was at that level. Not that I'm something special, but I remember there were Saturday mornings where it would be you, myself, Brandon, those two crazy Russians that were in class, that's father and son, and Brandon Delport, and it was hard Saturday mornings, and then we would get into the car and go to Fight Fit in Sunning Hill. Then we would go and play punching bag for the guys at Fight Fit, and you expected us to step onto the mat there, and nobody expected us to win, but you were expected to step onto the mat. And I remember you holding your own against these pro fighters as well, and not to fight them or be really a challenge for them, but just kind of going and this is where it gets tested, and not once again not to prove a point, but you need to experience that really hard sparring and that kind of stuff as well. And so for somebody to say that the training at EDA isn't physical, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, it was, or it still is. It was hard sparring, and the bruises and stuff prove that. But that's not my point I wanted to get to. I've had the similar discussion with Arnu Wallo from Combative Concepts as well, and I said to him, there's a time and a place for everything and everybody. Yes, there's guys that prefer the really dingy dark corner garage force on force, almost Fight Club like combatives world. Yeah. And that's lekker. There's nothing wrong with that. I've done that as well. I know Groby has. EDA was almost like that right in the beginning. Basically what we do in George is like that now because we don't have much else here. But there's a time and a place for the kind of testosterone-driven, no holds barred, put in your gum guard on day one, and suck it up. But you cannot throw everybody into that environment. Right. If you take Mevrou Conradi, that's 56 years old, that got a handbag stolen, she wants to learn something, you cannot put her in that environment, you'll never see her again. You need something that's a stepping stone for her to kind of dip her toes and then her feet and then ankle depth and learn something. And in that sense, I believe there is a time and a place for the more commercial, Krav Maga environment. It gets a lot of flack, sometimes for good reason, but there's a time and a place for it. And to just sugarcoat everything and tell everybody, it sucks. It's simply not. It's not the right way. It's untrue.
I think it comes down to meeting people where they are. If you look at the vast majority of people out there, they don't want to go and get hit and mauled and spend week after week, suffering hernias and broken bones. If you want to get really serious, then hey, I've had all of those things, but that's been part of my personal journey, and I wouldn't recommend it for everybody. The point is that your average, and I don't say average in a disparaging way, your average intelligent person who actually has a life.
The day job where he faces clients.
Yes, yeah. He's not, he or she is not signing up for that level of intensity necessarily. What they want is something that will get them out of a tight spot, or better still, teach them tactical and strategic skills that will help them avoid the tight spot, or smart their way out of it as well as fight their way out of it. That to me makes total sense. And part of our approach and our evolution over the years has also reflected that. If you look at our marketing now, it's very soft. We don't do the fight club thing. It's there, it's still there, make no mistake. But we don't put it out there and try and beat our chests. And as you say, it's not a testosterone contest.
No, it's not a dick measuring thing.
No, it really isn't. Sure.
I'm going to chip in here. At the time, just when we left from Boksburg to come live here in George, you guys were offering the bully-proof classes for the kids. And right at that time, my kids were just too young to actually get the full benefit of it. And that was something that is, and the reason why I'm saying is, I want to take it back. It's like you guys were talking about giving access to people. And I would say that classes that you were offering, that was ideal. Are you guys still doing the bully-proof?
Yes, yeah. Over the years, we rebranded it. It then became Kids Academy, a part of Elite Defense Academy, obviously. And we actually have two divisions within Kids Academy. We have Kids Krav Academy, which is it's for the younger kids, aged from around 4 or 5 years old up to about 7 or 8. And then we've got Kids Krav, which is from, for kids from around 8 years old up to around 13 or 14. And what we do there is, as well as teaching them, obviously safe and age-appropriate self-defense, we also teach them life skills. So we teach them about, and age-dependent, of course. We teach them about things like being aware, things like identifying people who may potentially want to harm them. For the littlies, we even throw skills in there like fire safety and electricity safety and road safety and water safety and things like that. Because what we're about is self-preservation. It's not only self-defense. Life is precious, and we want to equip those kids with those skills, not social skills, practical life skills. And we teach them life skills as well. So, over the years, with the assistance of several psychologists, child psychologists, and occupational therapists, we've actually formulated a program that teaches kids things like nonverbal communication, things like how to increase their self-confidence, how to change their thought patterns so that they gravitate toward a success mindset, how to turn, how to take failures or setbacks and use them as fuel to progress and see them as positive things because it increases your resilience and so on. And so all of those things are kind of molded together in those classes and in those sessions, and it's growing incredibly fast. So fast, in fact, that we now can't really, because not all our clubs are equipped to offer that. You need a dedicated teacher to teach that syllabus. So not all our clubs or facilities offer it. And what we've done is we actually offer an online version where once a week parents dial in with their kids. It's done on Google Meet, and the parents actually participate for 45 minutes with the kids online. I cannot tell you how that has grown and what an impact it's making. And it removes the barriers to entry in terms of distance and time and all the rest of it. And it's making a massive difference. So yes,
I believe that's it's the foundational phase. If it's the quicker you get the kids, and especially Willie and I were discussing that minutes ago. It's the level of confidence that you need to try and instill in your children, and the only way that you can get that is training and exposure and real not in depth but real father and parent like and mother like teaching in terms of skills, like basic skills to us. And that's, like you said, the non-verbal stuff, how to actually de-escalate things, how to address things when they do get physical. It adds, and I saw it with my son. As soon as he started doing jiu-jitsu, his outlook in terms of aggressive responses to other kids diminished, because he knew he didn't need to worry about it, because if something does happen, he can handle himself. it's amazing, and that's one thing. If anybody that's listening that's got kids, really do yourself a favor. It's fantastic in terms of laying a proper foundation for them.
Robbie, if I can just mention as well, in order for children to assimilate something and for it to be meaningful, there has to be a high level of trust. So I think that's why we've had such success with parents doing it with their kids and participating, because the parents also understand what it is that we're after, what we're trying to accomplish, and then the light goes on for them, and they go, oh, hang on a second, wait, wow, a lot of parents have said to us, I wish I'd had this when I was a child. My life would have been so different. And it's an approach that we take for not just the kids, but for our adult students as well. There are two, as you probably know, there are two kinds of stress. There's distress and there's eustress. Distress is bad or injurious stress. So if I walk into a gym and there's 150 kilos on a barbell and I decide I'm going to squat it, and I've never been in a gym, and I try and do it, I'm going to break my knees, break my back, kill myself, wind up in hospital. That's distress. Eustress is looking at it and saying, a year from now, I'm going to be squatting that, and then building it up gradually by using intelligent resilience to increase your strength and your capacity. And you can do that in such a way that you can challenge children and adults to become far more than what they thought they could ever be. But doing it, in such a way that
constructively,
yes, it's constructive. It doesn't harm them. And this is where I feel a lot of the, not a lot, maybe that's unfair, but some of the marketing around Krav Maga and some of the approaches to training Krav Maga out there take the distress view, point of departure where you walk in and we are now teach you Krav Maga, and they hit you and they make you bleed and they throw you down the stairs.
Or you hear the leaky boost pipe.
Yes, and
is that compulsory?
No, well, not at EDA anyway. I mean, you can.
So anybody that doesn't know what we are referencing, I'm just going to give you a little bit of context. There is, I don't know if he's an official or he's associated with proper Krav Maga channels or whatnot, but there's the trainer called Idan Abolnik. So this lovely gentleman had a fantastic, I think it was about a week-long argument regarding, and we'll get to that now, Des. There's the Krav Maga teaching of running an empty chamber, and with us sport shooting, and we were just highlighting the elements of it that we think.
Yes, you're angling for 8 mile now. Oh my goodness, glorious! Go ahead.
Fine. So we had about a week's argument that we think that a firearm chambered will probably fire a quicker first shot, and Idan was adamant, no, with them drawing and cocking, it's the same speed. And we said, okay, let's test it, and we're happy to test it in a proper shooting environment. And Idan was willing to come down to George, but then he gave us a list. We need to do 2Ks running, 20 pull-ups, 50 push-ups, and then
walk with a backpack.
Yes.
I remember he wanted me to walk with a backpack. Very, very clearly, and it was funny because Robbie made the joke. He said, "We must get him to come, let him do all of it, and when he's done, now you win."
Yeah, you win. We lose.
You guys are evil.
No, but long story short, Idan, and since at that time, and Idan, they've got this quite extreme training videos, and they do a lot of chicken winging, so it's a lot of weird, dramatic shooting positions. And then they've also got, he used to do a lot of, I don't know, what we call it a leaky boost pipe. It sounds like a turbo from a Subaru that's dropping at 8,000 revs. But actually what was more disconcerting is that a lot of the extreme videos that they were showing in terms of their training used live ammunition in very close proximity or in very dangerous situations where we tend to joke about it, but at one point in time, I was actually quite seriously afraid for any of these trainees to getting shot by accident. And but like I said, Des, we'll get back to Krav and empty chamber a little bit later on.
Can I throw in a quick comment there, a quick disclaimer, as it were?
Yes. You can.
Our policy at EDA and my policy is that you do you, we do us. I don't critique individuals. I think there are certain practices which are questionable, and I'm happy to comment on those. I'll tell you, having interacted with Ed on a personal level once or twice over the years, I can confirm that we're not best of friends, and that's okay. I will tell you that, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think in terms of raw combatives, some of what he teaches is very good. I think it actually has merit. There are certain things which, in my opinion, do not have merit, and that's his business. One of the hallmarks of many people, shall I say, on the other side of the fence, the knuckle draggers, is that there's this pattern of trying to elevate themselves or make themselves look better by picking apart what other people do. It's like the YouTube syndrome, where someone will watch a video of a martial artist and go, hey, look at this. It's like a martial arts fail or whatever it is. And that kind of saddens me, because no matter how ridiculous somebody looks, and I'm not talking about Krav Maga here, I'm talking about, you see the videos of, there's some Russian dude out there who does like white crane kung fu or something. You may have seen those videos where he does this weird little dance and hits the punching bag with his head and his heel and his hip. Do yourself a favor, just look up Russian kung fu sensei, and this guy gets like trawled across the internet from one end to the other, and I feel sorry for him, because it's his business, it's no one else's business. If he teaches that and there are people who like it, it's fine.
That's what they're doing. Yeah.
But be that as it may, I'm very happy to comment on what I regard as dubious practices, though. So by all means, bring on Empty Chamber a bit later and hissing noises and somersaults and backtracks. Happy to comment on that.
Just the last point on Idan is that even though that we are commenting about some of the range and training practices that's quite dubious, actually hats off to him. I know that he was involved, or I don't know if he's still involved with some farmers and training them, and it's as much as, and I know some people might disagree with me, it's like even if he's training them what we would call incorrectly, he's still out there actually doing something about it, and that's something that you alluded to earlier as well. It's like he's actually doing something, and he's out there. So big ups on each to their own. Yeah,
each to their own. People find their own tribe, and some tribes I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot barge pole. I'm just putting that out there diplomatically as well. But at the end of the day, I think if you're teaching combatives, if you're teaching a martial art, if you're teaching practical self-defense, even if you're not doing a particularly fantastic job, we're all on the same side, aren't we? Our goal is to stop bad people from hurting good people. Now,
but it's
the only problem is that sometimes poor training, and by poor I don't mean the training necessarily itself, but the spirit in which it's conducted and the culture that is built around it, leads to good people becoming bad people. And that's what we see in some of these instances where people become socially undesirable. They become abrasive, they become aggressive, they become bullies, they become critics. The world doesn't need more of those.
And I think that, especially at the moment, one we would probably get critique for mentioning it, but I think it's also relevant, because the moment you bring up Krav Maga, or the words, or the name, or whatever you want to call it, you're going to get two responses to it. You're going to get the normal, well thought out, reasoned response. Go and check it out. And then you're going to get the what shall we call it? The
knee-jerk response.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, couch professionals.
And I think that there are, unfortunately, some schools that give everybody a bad name.
I agree.
this is a and this
I
is
hope
a
we're not one of
point.
them.
No, you would trust me. You would not have been here if you were. But it's one of those things where the moment somebody asks about Krav Maga on some of the the typical Facebook pages that we frequent, unfortunately, and to my disappointment, 99% of the responses are negative, and I try my best to kind of bat there where I can. I say, but hold on, not all Kravs are created equal, for the lack of a better way to describe it. And what
are you doing?
is Krav?
No,
Yeah,
and what are you doing actually? Yeah.
There's no set curriculum here. There's no one size fits all, approach to this, and you cannot judge one guy based on the actions of another. Go and there are obviously some schools that are dodgy, and I usually tell the guys, just think for yourself for a little bit if this is a good idea.
Yeah.
But it saddens me because I remember when we started, when was it, 10 years ago, it wasn't like that. It was good. Yes, go do Krav. It's great. It's going to teach you something. And I'm like, yeah, but not, it doesn't change. The punches don't change and the kicks don't change and the this don't change. So why is it now all of a sudden this pariah when it comes to modern day combatives? And that saddens me a little bit because I do very much think there's still a time and a place for it. But unfortunately, you get influenced by others that don't, about the bad decisions and bad, formats of other guys, and that's a shame, really. And then I think it's on guys like you and Brett and the guys from Warrior Sports to kind of fight that good fight and say, hold on, we're not like that.
Can I mention something? And I think I don't necessarily think it's actually. I don't think it's Krav Maga per se. I think it just might be something that's in society that's prevalent now. People tend to have opinions on stuff that they haven't tried, or they've seen a couple of videos and they have no idea. And the point I'm trying to make is, guys, if you're in Joburg, if you have kids, I think, Des, you guys are not just in Joburg anymore. You guys are all over the country.
We're pretty much predominantly Joburg and Cape Town, but we've got a couple of other centers as well. Yeah,
so, and we'll put up some links to it. But guys, like the baseline to it is, go and experience it a bit. I know we tend to joke on some of the elements, but it's one of our trainers many years ago said, guys, you're an adult. Go and experience something. Get out there and do it. Whatever you think and can work out that works for you, use it. And I think Des and the guys, especially with the kids training as well, go and try it. It's like it's like I almost said something very un-PC again. it's not as hardcore. It's not Fight Club, and it's baby steps. You'll quickly get to learn a couple of let's call it critical, easy to master moves, something that you don't have to train. But then once you start building the knowledge up, you'll figure out that there are certain things. It is a perishable skill. You need to remember, you need to practice it a bit. And they've got, I'm sure they can fit you in some shape, manner, or form. Guys, just to put it into context, my daughter is we're planning to au pair in either Europe or the States next year, but with all the stuff that's happening now. So the big thing for me for the last couple of months have been to, in very small chunks, just give her some of the Krav skill set, because I'm a dad. She's my daughter. She's going to be away. She'll have to look after herself. God forbid something does happen. But if something does happen, you'd want the skill set. And there's the thing. A lot of these things, you look at a YouTube video, it looks dodgy, it sounds crazy. It's Israeli super training fighting force that you understand nothing about. But trust us, it's one of those things you can walk in one class and get out something. But now now that we've got that behind us, Des, let's talk empty chamber.
You knew we had to.
I knew you had to.
Just set, I know your opinion, but set the record straight.
Sure. Unless you do not have a choice, empty chamber is a shite idea. It's a terrible idea. And the reason I'm adding a qualifier right up front is that, you know, we have several clubs in Namibia. We've got a couple of clubs in Kenya. I'm talking in the African context. Those are two countries, both of which you legally are not allowed to carry one up. So,
oh wow, okay, that's quite interesting. I didn't know.
Yeah.
That.
So you know, that being said, under any other circumstance where it's legal to do so, for the record, EDA preachers carry one up. It makes complete sense for all the reasons you've mentioned. And if you feel that it's unsafe, then it means you're unsafe. It means your firearm training is lacking. Very, very simple.
And then if anybody that's listening, go research the definition of dogma. Des and them don't ascribe to a dogma. There's the stigma that says the Krav Maga's empty chamber. It's dogmatic. It's dogmatic to believe something as rudimentary as that. But yeah, thank you, Des, for putting it straight.
Robbie, there are a number of dogmas that we don't subscribe to, and it's one of the reasons why 6 years ago we you know, although we were affiliated to an Israeli body for a number of years, we made the decision to part ways respectfully, because we were being stifled. There were a lot of practicalities and realities that we felt were really important, and you know, it's, I suppose, typical of any structure where there is a system and you're obliged to adhere to the system, and anything outside of the system is regarded as either being not valid or suspicious or shouldn't be taught because it creates confusion. And for that reason, we parted ways. We became proudly independent, and it set us free to think for ourselves and to be a lot more evolutionary and revolutionary in some of the things that we've applied and discovered. It means that in fact, one of our tenets is not to be bound by dogma. We have an open door kind of policy in EDA where any of our students or instructors at any point can go, why do we do this way? Is there a better way? And if there is a better way and they can show it to us, well, of course, there's a process of testing and evaluation and what have you. But if it has merit, it immediately gets bolted on or woven in or absorbed into what we do. Yeah. It makes complete sense. We live in a world that is evolving so quickly. There are so many new nuances of information, intelligence, threat out there, and just discovery of better ways of doing things. We mustn't be blind to that and go, you know, we know everything. And I think this is another area where Krav Maga has unfortunately gotten itself a bad reputation, because it's inclined to come across as bombastic. You know, this is Krav Maga. We know everything. You know, there's nothing we can learn from anybody. And I strongly and respectfully disagree with that. We learn from people all the time. One of the things that we've done over the last 2 years is we've been restructuring and rebranding and rejigging what we do. And our new kind of public face is not just Elite Defense Academy Krav Maga. It now reads Elite Defense Academy Krav Maga, Combatives and Martial Arts. And I'll perhaps embellish on that a bit later. But I can see you guys are itching to ask other leaky boost pipe questions.
But this, you know, it's so important, and I've said this. You know, we've had in you. I do rank you in that company, but we've had, in my opinion, you know, some of the top instructors in South Africa on the show. We were very fortunate that all of them have come on the show. And one thing, and I've said it in every one of their interviews, and I'm saying it in yours, and I've said it in an article to Paratus before, that one of the things that for me sets a good instructor apart from the mugus out there is two things. First of all, is he okay with you training outside the sphere of the organization itself? Because if he's jealous, why? Why is he not okay with you opening your mind? But that instructor, and I know you've done it all the years as well, and you've just said it, that you learn. an instructor that does not learn from other places is an idiot.
They have to learn. They have to assimilate stuff that's working from other guys or new technologies. It's like the red dots and stuff on guns now. No, it makes a big difference.
If your instructor does not learn from other instructors, it's in my opinion, you're wasting your time and your money, because 10 years from now, you're still probably going to be taught old stuff.
So what's the difference? So what's the difference then between a system that is good, if I can call it that, and a system that is bad? Here's my opinion. A system that is bad tries to conform you to the system. A system that is good conforms the system to you.
Yeah. One of our firearm instructors was very adamant, is that he'll teach you the fundamentals of it, but the application won't be the same for every single person. You need to assimilate the information and then mold it to your own personal fit, and then go from there. But now, you mentioned you had a whole list of things. It's Elite Defense Academy, Krav Maga, yada 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 yada. There's a lot. There was a long tail there. Please elaborate a bit on the tail.
Sure. As you say, for a number of years now, Krav Maga has increasingly been perceived as a kind of a pariah. People see it as being bombastic. It's rapidly becoming or has become in some quarters, the sort of untouchable of the combatives world. And that's been more of because of certain personality cults out there than the system itself. And there's more than one system, let me just add that. When I explain to people what Krav Maga is, when we get beginners coming in, I explain to them that it's a synthesis. It's an intelligent evolution and an amalgamation of elements that come from other martial arts that have been around for thousands of years. There's nothing new under the sun. And that's given rise over the years to people going, wow, so I want to learn more about grappling. I want to learn more about, this particular striking art. I want to learn more about weapons. I want to learn about, firearms. I want to learn about cold weapons and all of these things. And up until now, we've taken the route of saying, go and see that person, go and train with that person. We endorse them. We think they're good, but if you find someone you like, hey, by all means, go and explore. It's a big world out there. There's room for everyone. And a number of people over the last couple of years have been asking, but can't you do it? And it gave rise to a very serious train of thought. And over the last 3 years, we've gone from being a dungeon operation in a couple of churches and little halls here and there, to actually becoming an organization. I'm embarrassed to say it. It sounds so formal and false, but it's true. We now have layers of command, as it were. We have a full-time CEO who looks after the business growth and the expansion of our brand. We have a head of syllabus whose role it is to go out there and explore everything and continually sharpen and add to what we do and what we have, and a number of other things. And one of the things that's come out of that, sorry, I know this is a long answer to a very short question.
No, go ahead.
One of the things that's come out of that is that we are now in the process of strategic partnerships with recognized and well-liked experts in different combative systems and different martial arts, where we do a collaborative presentation of their skill through EDA. And the reason that we're doing that is quite simply that people who, let's say, for example, someone comes to EDA and they want to learn a particular martial art that we offer outside of Krav Maga. They know that if it carries our badge, we've looked at it carefully, we endorse it for what it's worth, and they're not getting some kind of Hong Kong. It's taught by somebody knowledgeable. It accords with good principles, and it dovetails with the kind of approach that we take to teaching. So it's early days yet. We've only just started that process, but in the space of a few months, we've launched a BJJ offering under Gary King, who's based in Cape Town. He trained with the Gracies. He was one of the very first black belts in this country, very, very highly and widely regarded. We've started a Tai Chi offering, as bizarre as that may sound, but we believe there has to be a soft and sensitivity element to the martial arts as well, because it's an internal journey as well as an external one. We're currently talking to 2 very highly regarded Taekwondo instructors, karate instructor, a number of others. And our goal is not just to be like a supermarket and have cans of beans on the shelf. It's to carefully select systems and styles that we feel complement the important things people need to know to become well-rounded. And that is a two-way journey, because on the one hand, it exposes our students and our instructors to different trains of thought, and we welcome that. We want fresh blood, we want fresh thought into what we do all the time. But at the same time, it allows for cross-pollination. It allows for some of those people to see why we do things a certain way, and possibly that may help them or have some influence on the way they see what they do. And it's a reciprocal arrangement. The other reason we're doing that is just simply because of the demand. You know, we've over the last year, we've started building up. You guys must promise not to laugh now. I'll explain why. But we've actually started building up an online training platform. We now have a Krav Maga University online. And that has also come in for quite a lot of criticism over several months from people who believe that you can't learn anything online. And so let me qualify that. You can't learn everything online, but there are certain things you can learn online. You guys know that you can watch a video of someone teaching, you know, trigger discipline, teaching proper methods of dry fire, teaching proper methods of aiming, of grip and placement, and tactical movement. You can learn all those things by watching. Of course, putting them into practice is another thing, and that has to be hands-on. But there's a lot of valuable information that you can impart in the digital space. And for us, that's the new frontier. That's something that we're focusing on very heavily. So we're taking a 3 or 4 pronged approach to these arts, because we obviously, if we've got someone who's brilliant at BJJ, who's teaching, he's got one venue, he's got one club, he's in one location. How do we get that? If James, not James, beg your pardon, if Gary's in Cape Town, how do we get people in Joburg? How do we get people in Nairobi to garner some skills from him? So we're taking a lot of that online. And what we're doing is online videos. We're doing informal study groups where people can form their own groups and practice what they learn, with a view to actually planting out and building up study groups that build up a certain level of skill under the supervision of competent people. And those skills then feed back into our Krav Maga system and complement it. And we want to go that route with everything. I'm not just talking traditional martial arts. I'm talking about combatives, and I'm talking about weapons training as well. You know, so that's a work in progress.
Please,
but
Des, don't stress about laughing. It's the way forward. We just have to find. There are barriers in passing online training and getting the necessary skills across. But yeah, no, it's the future, dude.
We're big. The reason why you did not see us laugh is because we've said it before on the show as well, is that if you're in the city, getting into your car and going to class or to a Saturday morning workshop or whatever, that's easy. Get in your car and go. But for guys like us, I mean, for the guys that's listening to the show at a later stage, myself and Grobe is based in George. We're lucky if we get an instructor here in George once a year. So we are forced to self-train, whether we want to or not. Otherwise, we have to do a 1,000-kilometer trip, a couple of times a year. So we do the trips and we get the guys down here where we can. But the rest of the time, we self-train. We don't have much of it. We don't have much of a choice.
Yeah, the accessibility is not there.
I'm a firm believer in if there's a solid online platform, hell yes. And one must just apply your mind and realize there is limitations to it and commit to, okay, hold on, I can't only do this. I need to budget and make a plan that once a year or once every 6 months, I need to get hands-on training. But we're huge proponents of self-training, definitely.
Okay, I'm very glad to hear that. You know, we've built in a feedback mechanism as well. In that, I'll give you an example. Our Krav Maga, during the COVID crisis, obviously we closed all our clubs, and in fact we closed the clubs before it was mandated. We saw it coming. We made provision, and probably 3 weeks before lockdown happened, we already put a notice out to our instructors saying we're closing, and here's the contingency plan. The contingency plan for us was to launch online training with vengeance. but also to enable our instructors to conduct online classes, using Zoom or Meet. And that has been an enormous, enormous success. Our retention rate, whereas other clubs, and I feel desperately sorry for them. There were, you guys know, there were martial arts clubs and all sorts out there closing down and just having to give up.
Especially even now,
they're taking strain. I can tell you that we retained 92% of our students and have done so in the last 6 months. And that's simply because we took the initiative to go, guys, we're producing videos. Guys, we're having live training once a week where there will be an instructor to not only show you what to do, but to answer your questions, see what you're doing, give you feedback. We have a channel where the guys can video themselves. They can send in short clips on our WhatsApp group. They can give instant feedback, evaluation, and so on. So it's the next best thing to physical training. And that's worked extraordinarily well for us.
If I can comment somewhere, it wasn't a shower thought, but it was very close to a shower thought maybe 2 or 3 days ago. Sorry, guys, it might PG rating. I'm just kidding.
Can't unsee that, but carry on.
Can't wait. So I have a theory that we were doing CrossFit and you're doing whatever classes and you're boxing or you're training rugby or something. I think a big part of any of these things are the commitment element. Now, as soon as somebody's waiting for me, somebody's like especially team sports and that type of thing. But now what you're mentioning is that there's still a time and place that your students need to pitch up and do something.
Yes.
I think that is probably 80% of the battles, almost like that. It's not precisely the Pareto effect, but it's pretty much the stepping stone. If you can put your gym clothes on and you put your gi on, then it's easy to go. It's just making that decision and I think if you guys, it sounds like you guys have found the way to do it. And yes, that's more impressive, dude. Well done.
So I'll tell you that in time to come, we're looking ahead. Our CEO, who is, by the way, I want to give him a shout out. His name is Alex Berndl, and he's based in Cape Town. He's British of origin, and he has done wonders for EDA. And I'll tell you why, because he's come in and looked at it with fresh eyes and gone, how do we build this up? How do we take something that is already good and make it exponentially better? And a large part of this evolution in terms of thinking digitally, in terms of getting to a bigger audience, a lot of it has been through his stimulus and guidance and input. He is already looking at options for us in terms of, slightly longer term. We're looking at a 3 to 5 year plan where we're going to have training using augmented reality, using virtual reality, using things like haptic suits. That is the future, gentlemen, whether we like it or not. It doesn't replace physical face-to-face training. It doesn't replace getting punched in the face. But it's a huge add-on, and it's a great starting point for people who want to actually learn practical skills.
I'm just I've made a note about it because one of my dear friends here in George, they at the forefront. They actually do a lot of the augmented reality training, even for like big industrial companies where like a service technician, say on a Caterpillar, on that type of machine, to train them up to just find a part in a vehicle takes forever. So these guys they're training offline. They don't need to stand by a machine that's standing still and not making money, and they're very successful in conveying enough information. It's like that plasticity in terms of your brain understanding. It's like one of the firearm training elements that we do is you don't necessarily have to draw fast and fire fast. Just do it nice and slow and get the feedback. Whereas these augmented reality are actually building the knowledge base for these guys, which is making a massive difference. No, we'll check afterwards, definitely. Yeah.
And probably you and I know that in terms of brain plasticity and in terms of neuron path development, it makes absolute sense to do that. If you think about it, airline pilots train on simulators for a long time before they're allowed in a plane. Brain surgeons do the same thing. And if that didn't work, why are they doing it? If it was a waste of time and didn't actually equip you in order to do it practically, why do it? And we're looking at it from that perspective.
It's like your whole point in terms of your online offering. When we started getting back into BJJ now, only recently, under very strict conditions. Yes. And
conditions apply.
Yes. And one of the things that really it sort of irritates me is that there's stuff that I know, but because I haven't done it for a long while, I need just a little bit of expert to hang on. You're putting your arm in the wrong place for that submission or that grip. Hang on. Forget about gripping and get into position first. Practice your fundamentals in terms of your position. Do these, do that. And then that'll actually help you progress. Your brain will start to remember the other parts if you do that. And that's like, I love living in the garden route. Really, it's such a blessing. But like even my son, and we were discussing me and my son were discussing the merits that if I was living in Cape Town or Joburg for that matter, we could be shooting every weekend, and we could be doing BJJ classes with top level instructors every night of the week, as much as we want to. And yes, that sounds like so much fun. But we live in such a great place. It's rough here in the garden route. Des, I don't know how we're going to survive it.
I'm going to have to come and visit you guys. I've been planning it and promising for a long time.
Well, once the Western Cape secedes, we plan on seceding from the Western Cape.
Yes.
The independent Republic of the Garden Route. We're gonna cut it off here by the Kaimans River and there by the George Airport.
Sounds reasonable. And you can form a strategic alliance with Hout Bay. Yeah. On the other side.
No. So well done on the online training, dude. I'm definitely. We need to look at that. Even from our perspective, that sounds great, and congratulations on retaining your clients, dude. That's tough times actually sometimes push you in a direction that you never knew that was available. It's amazing. Well done.
As it's a cliche, but you guys probably know that the Chinese character for crisis actually reads dangerous opportunity.
Oh, really? That's fantastic.
Yep,
that's
true story.
That's very philosophical. That's deep. That's very deep, Des.
Hey, I'm a deep guy.
I don't know. We know.
There's what it's a bit of a wide question, and I think we've touched on it, but I would like and I've said what I think, but I would like your opinion on it. What's, in your opinion, is the state or the future for Krav Maga in South Africa? I mean, there's like we said, there's a bit of it's a bit of a red-headed stepchild, but in your opinion, how bad is it really, and what's going to happen in the next couple of years?
Guys, I need to ask you a quick favor. I just need to go and open a door for somebody. Will you give me 2 minutes? I know we're running live, but I will.
Yes, go. No, go. Do your thing.
I need to open a door, otherwise my wife's going to be very cross with me. Hold on 1 second.
Robbie, I do believe we can expect some mail on your comment.
Yeah, okay. It's
okay.
It's okay. We're big boys, and like I said, as much as we give him shit for the cuck that he gets up to, and he knows it, he fucking knows it. We do appreciate that he actually is out there and doing something.
No, it's and one cannot have.
What is have?
One cannot have the discussion on Krav Maga in a South African context and the empty chamber and stuff don't come up. You simply can't.
Yeah.
It would not be a complete discussion.
No, but that's the whole, and that's why we hate dogma, and as soon as any structure or system labels anything as almost it's even though that it's a good thing, if any structure then goes, hang on,
humble apologies, guys.
No, don't worry.
No worries.
We were just espousing like some of the if an organization goes and says we can't do that because of reasons, and if the reasons are good, it's great, it's fine. But as soon as an organization says no, we've been doing this for years and years, even though that new method or tool or process or something, it's like simple to this. Just you guys doing the online thing. If you told anybody that 10 years ago, even with the technology and people would say, yeah, but you can never train somebody. They need to get the feel, or you need to show them, and it's body movements, and it's all these types of things. It's dogmatic, and it's you gotta steer very clear of something like that. And hence we've actually sure. This is a I think you guys must understand the each one teach one. As soon as we go on a course and we come back, whoever is willing and wanting, I tend to try and give them the course as I received it, because that not only refreshes my memory of what I was taught, but teaching something actually gives me a more in-depth knowledge of that what I was taught as well. And it's quite important to be not fluid, but to move with the times. You can't stick around.
I agree completely with you, and Ruan, I'll come back and answer your question in a moment. But the best way to learn is to teach, of course. And one of the things that we've also adopted is, if you look at the traditional martial arts and many systems of instruction, you need to, you guys know, you take up a traditional martial art, whatever it may be, and it takes you anywhere from 3 to 10 years to become capable and to become an instructor, someone who's regarded as trustworthy in terms of imparting the whole system. Now, we say, why do you need to impart the whole system? Not everybody's looking for the whole system. If you can teach up to an intermediate level or even a beginner level, and you wish to do so, why don't we equip you to do that and use that as a starting point for a further journey? So for us, that's enabled us to do two things. It's enabled rapid expansion in terms of getting our knowledge out there, helping people see what we have to offer. It also lends itself to scalability, obviously, because we have people from, literally all over the world. Our online training platform currently services 14 countries. I'm not talking thousands of people, I'm talking a couple of hundred, but they're in 14 countries. So how do you get to people like that? The answer is, you give them the basics, you enable them to self-train, and you equip them up to a certain point so that they can start sharing it with people around them. And that, to me, is a far more practical model. You can scale it more quickly. You can pivot. You can make corrections more quickly, and it gives you greater scope of imparting things that people desperately want from you. You're removing a barrier to entry.
Absolutely.
And it's important, because if you are there's this perception that you need to be, how shall I say, if you exactly what you say, you do not need to be a high level whatever to teach somebody something really basic. And it makes complete sense to me that, if you have a new guy that's working with a higher level student on something basic, I see no problem with that. We do it in the shooting community as well. You don't need Dave Spalding, who we've had on the show before, to teach you gun safety.
Yes,
you can have me teaching you gun safety. Stupid example, but I think it comes. It's almost elitism. And it comes maybe from the traditional martial arts stuff, where if you're not a super high level 10th dan black belt, street belt in fan fighting, whatever they call it, no, you can't teach anybody. Sorry, no.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You can't step into the cage. How dare you?
How dare you? Yeah, you know nothing. What do you know? Yeah.
That's exactly it. So, Ruan, sorry to come back to your former question. You were talking about, as I recall, your question was, what is the future of Krav Maga in South Africa? Where's it going?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, where shall I start? famous quote, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And that's our mission. We are aware of the fact that there are some parties out there who have probably not done Krav Maga any favors in terms of reputation, and that's okay. You do you, we'll do us. Very happy. There's room for everybody. Our mission, our goal is to use Krav Maga as something that is not just about self-defense or self-preservation or kicking and punching. We wanted to become a little bit more holistic. We wanted to be seen by the public as something that not just teaches you what to do when the shit hits the fan. It's an entire lifestyle around that. So how do you develop greater self-confidence? How do you avoid becoming a target? How do you learn how to deal with conflict and de-escalate it? How do you learn to manage yourself psychologically? And these are peripherals, but they're important peripherals. How do you learn greater awareness beyond just the simple basics of color coding and the OODA loop and all of those things, depending on the situation? How do you become can I always say an asset to society instead of just another person who can kick and punch? Because we need to look at. Yes, sorry, Robbie.
Have you read Left of Bang?
I haven't. I'm ashamed to say I haven't.
That's what I'm
instantly on my list.
No, it's one of those. It's what you're talking about is it's a lot of the stuff that we learned from you guys was when the action started, where Left of Bang says we need to focus on the stuff before the bang happens so that we can avoid the bang, because in the bang it's fluid, it's quick, it's unpredictable. And like you said, it's like the peripherals. The peripherals are like our kids. Holy crap. Just if you're in the street, just get off your fucking phone. It's like, and I'm so happy. My son, when he rides his bicycle in town, he'll listen to music, but he's only got one earphone in so that he can hear stuff going around and happening. It's like
outstanding.
It's stupid little things, and you see people like, oh my goodness. But no, you're very correct.
Yeah, probably earlier you mentioned the Pareto principle, and that's been a big part of the way or the approach we've taken to teaching what we teach, and the decision to do it in the structure the way that we do it. 20% of what you do gives you 80% of your best results. The problem is you don't always know which 20% it is. Therein lies the catch.
It's like marketing, yes.
Yes, exactly. So over the years, I think, and that's one of the reasons why maybe many traditional martial arts go this whole route of you need to know everything before you can teach anything. We're going, no, what is relevant to this most likely scenario? And we pick those things out. The future of Krav Maga in this country, I believe, doesn't lie in Krav Maga on its own. I think Krav Maga has to move with the times or become as archaic as learning drunken style kung fu or whatever. And I'm not dissing those things. They're wonderful. But they're not relevant. They're not relevant right now. And Krav Maga is at risk of losing its relevance. When I say relevance, I don't mean to the people who think it's important, who already do it. I'm talking about the people out there who need it and aren't exposed to it because of the knuckle draggers, the people who, And that's our mission, is to rectify that, make it accessible, make it attractive, without losing anything, without soft peddling anything, but doing it in a way that is intelligent and geared toward the audience that we hope to reach.
Yes, dude. No, you've got me amped.
It's so important that you say that. I mean, earlier in the show we mentioned there's a time and a place for everybody or different styles of combatives in South Africa. I suppose internationally as well. And I've said to somebody that asked me for some training a while ago, I said, I cannot realistically, when it comes to the physical side of fighting, I can only teach you so much in so much time. And a Saturday morning, yes, I can teach you one or two things, that'll help you. But the reality is it's very, 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 very limited. What I can teach you, though, in a limited amount of time, is not to get into trouble in the first place. And that is so important. And you mentioned that in your training now. That's one thing that I remember from my time with EDA is we would talk a lot. And it sounds ridiculous if I say it like that, but we would discuss scenarios with you and we would throw ideas around. And it was never just kicking and fighting. You taught me a way of thinking. And I will give you, Des, a lot of credit for it, because my way, the little seed that's grown over the years was planted by you, in my training with you, and that's what I say to the guys. Not getting into shit in the first place. That's plan A, and you can teach somebody that in a very limited amount of time. And that's why I firmly believe that there is a place for the softer approach in combatives, because realistically, a lady that's 60 years old, 70 years old, 65, even older, you can spend 6 months with her, a year. She will not beat any one of us up. It's not going to happen.
No.
But we can give her a very good avoidance skill set in that time.
Yes.
And you need to cater. There's a time those people have the same right to self-defense and learning a skill set than anybody else. So why must there be a one-size-fits-all approach where we're moving people through dry walls? It's there's a place for everybody. And I think there's
Agreed.
The avoidance element into it is so important.
The famous Japanese swordsman Miyamoto Musashi said, what can be applied to one person can be applied to 10, and what can be applied to 10 can be applied to 1,000 in matters of strategy. And imagine an army that is only taught to shoot, but there's no strategy, there's no tactic, there's no guiding doctrine, there is no strategic plan as to how to attack the enemy or how to circumnavigate the enemy. There's no intelligence skills. All they know is how to shoot. Can you imagine the carnage? That's the way we have to view training one person. We have to give them a holistic view of what's happening and likely to happen.
So we're slowly approaching, the end of the time slot. So I'm going to ask, what's next for EDA?
Hang on.
What's the next big thing?
What's next? Before you go to what's next, you actually raised. It's like that question. There's one thing that I asked you one evening after class, and I still probably do it, and I teach a lot of people to do this. And I just wanna give you a little bit of a heads up that I'm still using it. Rowan, they said, I said, yes, dude, how do you prepare for all these things? Because there's so many different options. And he says, no, man, just every day, once a day, wherever you are. If it's in the car, if you're at home, if you're at the office, just play a scenario in your head of something that's happening. And then what would your outcomes be and how would you address it and. So Des, I explained this to my wife, and we were sitting in Spur, and the seat was strategically placed that I could see all the exits. And my wife said, it's all Des's fault. You think you're James Bond and you're living in a movie.
I'll make it up to you somehow.
But I just wanted to say, like, when he was talking about the stuff that you taught him, it's like I still use it. I still teach people. It's like it's the same thing. It's neural plasticity, because you're thinking it. You're training your brain how to handle those situations. It's crazy. Yeah. But like Rowan said, what's next for EDA? But we heard a lot about what's next. Okay, so embellish, please.
I want to.
Yeah, you said you wanted to embellish.
I mean, not in too great a detail, but we foresee, in in terms of where EDA is going and what it's becoming, we want it to become an information portal, so that anybody who comes to us and wants to know about any aspect of Krav Maga, of combatives, of the martial arts, especially those that we're involved in and will become involved in time to come, we can provide them with high quality information, high quality training, and do so in such a way that will equip them in the shortest time and most effective way possible. It sounds like a mission statement. I just made that up on the spot. But the idea is to become multifaceted as opposed to, I think, Robbie, I made the comment earlier where I said Krav Maga is at the risk of becoming irrelevant. Irrelevance happens when things stiffen and become rigid and dogmatic. And we want to be very careful not to allow that to ever happen to us. We want to become a fluid, living, evolving system of knowledge that anyone can tap into. If I can draw a kind of a tech comparison, we want to become the quantum computing of what we offer. We want to become a supercomputer that people can plug into. It's open source, and it will help you up your game no matter what you're doing or who you are, whether you're a high-level shotist, whether you're a housewife who just wants to learn how not to get, harassed by someone on a street corner, and everything in between. We would like to be the premium source of good information and solid training for that. It sounds very simple, but of course it's more complex than that.
Yeah,
that is the longer term vision for what we want to be.
That sounds fantastic, dude. I'm itching. The online classes that you were referring to. I can't wait to get off the actual interview. We can discuss it a bit more. I really want to get into it. It sounds like you guys have a nice direction that you guys are going in.
And of course, let's not forget the obvious. Just in passing, because it is obvious, but it's necessary to mention. An instructor is selling his time. You go into a range, you teach 20 guys, 30 guys, you're limited to that. You can't get 100 people on the range at the same time. Yeah. But if you're teaching online in a certain context where it's appropriate to do so, you can have 1,000 people on the range, and you can be remunerated for that, and you should be.
Yeah.
So part of the system
more affordable for those. Yeah, it's
exactly.
more affordable for those 1,000
scalability
people.
Makes it affordable.
And you just got to figure out the syllabus, how you actually, or not the syllabus, the process of imparting
the structure
that.
And the process, correct. And we're gearing that in such a way that we're making it financially very attractive to those who choose to collaborate with us, because we understand the value of what you have to offer. If you're skilled at what you do, for heaven's sake, man, you've spent the better part of your life studying a skill that you've paid for, and you've paid for it in bruises, blood, stress, loss of income, you name it. You guys know the story. You've put far more graft into learning and doing what you do than an average heart surgeon puts into his training over 14 years. So that means that you should be remunerated. You shouldn't be selling your time. You should be selling your skill. Selling your time is the cherry on top where people get to interact with you. But your skill is what's valued. And we're moving, if I can just look at it, more holistically, globally, we're moving from a time economy where employees get paid for their time to a skill economy.
The skills economy.
Why should the same not apply in the martial arts?
Sounds fun, man. Just looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with. Yeah.
Des, where can the guys get hold of you?
You're welcome to look us up on Facebook. Just search on Facebook, Elite Defense Academy International. And if you want to visit our website, it's www.eda-international.com. Nice and easy.
Excellent. Any last parting words of wisdom? Any golden nuggets that you want to drop before we end the show?
No pressure.
You always had a lot of golden nuggets. Come on, drop one.
Something deep.
On
something
the spot.
Deep. Yeah, it's a tough one. Like I said, I'm not really a deep person, but I'll try. We need to get away from presenting combative skills and self-preservation skills to people as simply a short-term skill or a commodity, and we need to present it to people as a method of self-actualization. It's as important as dealing with your inner life. If you're a person who pursues spirituality and it enriches you and makes you a better person. And I encourage anybody who's watching this and wants to try something like this out. What we offer is various levels of skill, but approach a teacher, approach any system you choose to learn with the viewpoint of, is this enriching me? Is it making me a better person? Because if it's not, then it's probably either wrong for you or the wrong person offering it to you. And if someone can get that across, if they can, I'm not putting that in a crass way, but if it becomes evident in the course of your dealing with a teacher or someone who you're dealing with that it is going to enrich you and self-actualize and enrich your life, then you're onto a good thing and you should pursue it. And that's our mission. That's what we want to offer everybody.
Yeah, dude, I can only say that makes, it's one of the things that somebody asked me. I don't have a lot of regrets, but there's one big regret is that I wasn't introduced to BJJ years and years ago, because one of the elements, and I see it with my son especially, I'm not calling it spiritual or whatever, but there's a proper, it's almost like a brotherly respect and a love, and it sounds very homoerotic, and you can say what you want, but it's weird when people are trying to strangle you and kill you, and the next moment you just tap out and life goes on. And there's a very good connection in terms of what the outcome is. It's diatribally opposite of first strangling somebody, but you're doing it to actually make him better. It's crazy, but you've got a very good point.
I'd like to just add one more thing. We do actually have a slogan of sorts. We have a prime directive that we teach to every student and every instructor. And that prime directive that we give people is the preservation of life. Everything we do is geared toward that. And exactly what you're saying, preservation of life doesn't just mean saving a life in a crisis. It means having the necessary composure and compassion to save the life of your enemy, if you're able to do so, and it's justified. It also means, that preservation of life. The preservation of life also means taking care to preserve the dignity of others, to engender a society that has more respectful, more thoughtful, better people. And we change, or we exemplify, we try and exemplify that by becoming those people. So exactly what you've just said, Kroppie, that ethos is something that we all need to inculcate in everything we do.
I think, and a lot of people are missing that. You're so right. Yeah.
Guys, thank you very much. It's been enlightening as always, Des. It's coming on a decade now. But thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. Highly appreciated as always. We are going to speak offline. I'm just going to thank all our partners and all these guys that we work with. But I'm also going to ask you guys not to sign off. But yeah, guys, thank you very much as always for tuning in. Thanks to Ramon Kabanak, Renegade Media, for making this possible for us. Paratus, Gideon, for always sharing. EDA South Africa, a big component of making this a success. Mornay, Gareth, those guys. Thank you very much to all of you. And thank you for always tuning in. Given this next week or so, the show will be available on all the normal podcast platforms as well. And we've got some excellent guests lined up for you guys. There's a big, very big surprise coming up. So hopefully within the next week, a guest that we are currently in talks with. Very infamous and very controversial, but I'm going to keep that one in the pocket for a little bit longer. But thank you very much, guys. And that's all from me.
Yeah, good. Like a evening and all that. Thanks, Des. Thank you again. Very nice job.
Thank you, guys.
All right, don't sign off. I'm going to stop on my side. Thanks, Abe. Bye.
Yes.